Hey guys, and welcome to the Hobby News. Well, we've got more Ork stuff, more Ork little goodies to look at. This time not models, but rules. So they've released a few articles on the community page here, just giving us a little taste at what's to come for the Orks and how they're going to compete in this very volatile meta that we've got going on at the moment. With the Dark Elder and the AdMech stuff, and now the Orks are going to lay in. So it's pretty interesting, so I think we should get right into it, eh? So 3 ways to make Orks louder and more dangerous than ever. So you might have already seen this flying around, but I thought I'd just throw my 2 cents in as to how whether this is effective or not, or those kind of things, and just what it might imply for the future. So we'll have a little bit of a look here. So calling a Waaagh. To unleash the thunderous power of a Waaagh, you need a war boss or a speed boss to be a warlord. They've got the loudest voices. Clearly, your choice here also determines whether your warlord can call a Waaagh or a speed Waaagh. So you've got like your more speed freaks version, which if I was doing this, which I probably will be doing exactly what you see here in this image, which is basically a biker gang, because that'd just be so much fun to do all these little bikers and stuff. I think it'll be great. It'll be super cool. Be nice to get the war boss on a bike, but I'm not sure whether that's a thing or whether they'll make it a thing. Looks like he has a trike or something, but it'd be nice if there was a war bike version. But anyway, all good. So then we come down here for your warlords. Galvanizing war cry to be heard, they need to be on the battlefield during the command phase, or at the very least embarked on a transport that's on the battlefield. In the latter case, we assume he shoves his head out of the window before starting the shouting. So a Waaagh or a speed Waaagh can be called once per battle, and they both work in 2 stages. Stage 1 lasts until the start of your next command phase, then stage 2 kicks in, which lasts until the beginning of your subsequent command phase. So you get 2 stages worth of it. So the first part of the normal Waaagh, Ork core and Ork character units from your army are eligible to declare a charge, so it's basically advance and charge, and then add 1 to attacks characteristics of Ork models from your army. So that's really cool. So everything gets an extra attack, and as we see just in a little while when we look at some of these preview rules for their weapons, you'll see how all of this might combine and some of the interesting builds that might be there for this type of thing. Yes, it's only once per battle, but really, games of 40k are usually decided in the first and second turn, so you only really need this thing to go off once everything is in position. You're only gonna have that 1 turn to really decide the game anyway. So especially how killy the game's getting, when we look at the upgrade to their weapons, that's their following suit. Orks definitely, spoiler alert, they're following along the same trend. So we're looking at some pretty powerful stuff. They've got toughness 5. We know that's coming. They're getting these extra attacks. Their weapons are getting upgraded. It's looking like a pretty killy addition. And then stage 2, add 1 to the attacks characteristics. So that's the second stage, I guess. Wait, hang on. Right, so that's the one they get after that, I assume. I'm not really sure what's going on there. Okay, well, someone that understands this better than me can work it out. But essentially, you're getting extra attacks, and you're able to advance and charge. So this is probably a really good turn 2 thing here, especially that first part of it. I would imagine somewhere in around that turn would be probably pretty good. And then let's have a look at the speed Waaagh. So with the speed Waaagh, as the wind and the bullets of the foe whistle past in his vehicle, the speed boss throws back his head and roars his war cry, the call echoing from the ramshackle vehicles following in his wake as they surge forward ever faster. So stage 1, we've got the big race, and their Ork models from your army do not suffer the penalty incurred to their hit rolls for firing assault weapons in the same turn that unit advanced. Each time an Ork vehicle or Ork biker model from your army shoots with a Dakka weapon, make 1 additional attack with that weapon. So we're going to see how Dakka weapons work in a second, which is basically like an upgraded assault weapon, and then we're getting extra shots, and then we're getting even more attacks on top of that, which is pretty massive. So I can see some really, and if this follows suit with most things, that are on bikes, they get an additional toughness. So I'm assuming that Orks will probably be toughness 6 on bikes. What they usually do, they do that for Marines. They just tack on an extra toughness when they go on a vehicle or whatever. So they might end up being toughness 6, which is pretty good. And all these extra attacks on top of that is it's looking pretty good for Orks. And then we have each time a model in an Ork vehicle or Orks bike unit from your army makes a ranged attack, improve the armor penetration characteristics of 1. So that's really cool. Yeah, so and that carries through. So you're looking at a pretty great little bunch of rules here for either the Waaagh or the Speed Waaagh, in conjunction with the way the weapons are upgrading and how you're going to be positioning on the board. And you're really looking for that big, massive, like 1-2 punch kind of thing. So by turn 3, that this will already have make or break your game. You'll know exactly. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know, but I'm assuming this type of effect, you're going to want to do it somewhere in turn 2 or turn 3. And the game's going to be over. You've either massacred them enough to where you're controlling the board and you're picking up all of your primaries and your secondaries and all that, or you haven't done that correctly, and the effect of this doesn't get through, and you don't manage to do it. So I'd imagine that I can't see yourself using this towards the end, because you're not going to get enough effect to really maximize these types of effects. You want a lot of your army still on the board, and by turn 3 they're still Orks. They're going to die to plenty of weapons out there, and you don't want to be doing it with only a small amount of your units. You're going to get not very much effect, so you're going to want to do it earlier on. So I would imagine that this is going to be an interesting thing for Orks. You're going to be really going for a very aggressive build, whether it's shooting or combat. I can imagine that this is going to play into a far more aggressive style for Orks. You're really going to be taking the board, getting in there, whether it's your gun lines and so on with the big guns and so on, or you're doing vehicle-based one, you're really going to be pushing it very hard, and that's very Orky. So if that's your style, you want to get aggressive, I can imagine all this working really well into that style. So yeah, pretty cool. I don't think they really say too much. Then there's the Ghazghkull Tharaka one, which is the third type, which is a great Waaagh, which combines both of those effects across the army if you're using Ghazghkull. So that's another big deal. If you're going to take Ghazghkull in your army, then I can imagine that would be super powerful. So I'd imagine most tournament armies are going to be a Ghazghkull build, and you're going to be doing both effects and maximizing all those effects across your army. That seems the most powerful. So unless there's any downsides to that, I can't imagine pretty much every tournament army is going to have Ghazghkull in it, I'd assume. But for regular games, one or the other, that's great, and then sometimes Ghazghkull. So that's the beginning. So let's take a look at what happens when we start looking at the upgrades of their guns. So we come into the next one, which is new Codex Orks guns are so shooty that Dakka is a whole weapon type. So essentially what it's doing is changing a lot of the assault characteristics, or even in some cases, mostly it's assault to Dakka, and then there's also ones that are changing from previous type to now heavy and so on. So they're altering things, but also making things stronger and more shots. So we'll see. So the Orks' long-awaited new Codex will be with us very soon, and you can get your hands on it early, and with exclusive cover art as part of the Beast Snagger army set. So and from the way that this is talking about, which is going up for pre-order shortly, I think when this video comes out the day after, so Saturday, it feels like this Ork release is actually happening a little bit later in the year. So they may not actually be coming until after the Grey Knights and the Thousand Sons come out. So we might be seeing, a little bit of time between when everyone else can get the Codex. So you can have a few people out there that have this Beast Snagger army box with the Codex, and everyone else won't. Now, obviously, someone's going to leak that and just photocopy it, like just take photos of it all and put it online. So likely the community is going to have all the rules for Orks long before the actual Codex comes out. But on the other side of the coin, you are not going to have the actual book. So that means that's a bit of a question for tournaments and so on. Obviously, that you're not going to be able to use the new rules, I'd imagine. You'd have to wait. So it's kind of a weird setup here, considering what it looks like they're alluding to is quite a wait for when this stuff is actually coming out. But I could be wrong. It might be coming out next month or something, but it doesn't feel like it with the way that they've worded it. So that's kind of interesting. But let's just have a little look at these weapons. So we've got the Dakka weapons. Dakka weapons have 2 values for their number of attacks they make. When a model shoots a Dakka weapon, use the first value if the target is within half the weapon's range. If the target is not within half the weapon's range, use the second. Yeah, so it seems pretty simple, right? So if we come down here and we have a look at Mork's Raw, this is the old value here, so we've got 30 inches, assault 12, strength 5, AP -1, 1 damage. The new version is now 36 inch range, and we've got the Dakka build now. So I'm assuming Dakka also works the same as assault, where it's not, you can move and shoot this without penalty, I'm assuming. It doesn't really say it exactly, but I'm assuming that's what this is. It's still it still acts a bit like an assault weapon where you can move and fire it. I'd be surprised if it wasn't, but it doesn't exactly say that. So yeah, as far as I can tell. But it shouldn't affect your roll to hit. For Orks, that's important, with a very bad roll to hit. So yeah, but you're getting 16 shots now at close range, and then you're getting, so at 18 inches, you're getting 16 shots, and then 12 at the longer range, which has also been extended. So, that's pretty good, and you're getting the same values here. So in a lot of cases, the values here are the same, but you're getting even more shots and sometimes more range, which is super interesting. So it can be a pretty amazing sort of thing, and they go into a few other examples here, but let's just come down and see the ones that they've highlighted for us and take a look. So we've got the basic shooter now, so 18 inches same, but here we have the Dakka build. So when you're within close range, so I would imagine 9 inches, so that's not going to happen very often, I don't think, for a shooter. But you never know if you're doing like a Speed Freaks army, or you're doing like a they're all in trucks, or they're moving around and they're jumping out before they charge, or you're just moving onto an objective and you've got another unit that's going to charge in, and you just happen to have some units with shooters. This might come into play, so you're getting 3 shots. That's probably less so. This kind of thing is probably less likely, but maybe considering your toughness 5 and all that kind of stuff, you're going to want your Orks just flooding the board anyway, so you'll probably get some advantage of this extra shot. But if we take that into account with the Waaagh, then you probably will get extra. If you're doing the normal Waaagh, you'll get an additional pretty sure that's an additional shot, right? Is that what it was? Anyway, so there's going to be play there somehow to get this out, but this one isn't the most interesting. But when we start looking at some of the other ones, they start getting juicier. So we've got the big shooter now, which gets 5 shots at 18 inches, which is really good. So that's actually worthwhile. Same strength and AP and damage and all that sort of stuff. We're getting a few extra shots there, which is quite nice. And then if we come down here, we look at the rocket launcher again. So this is changing. So instead of being an assault weapon, now we've got heavy. So that will affect, I think, if they move and so on. But you're also getting the addition of blast. So you're getting blast on that. You're getting D3 shots. So potentially maybe an average of 2 shots with that at strength 8. Same AP and damage. So that's not bad. It does mean that it's a little bit more restrictive in terms of moving and firing. I'm pretty sure that you still get the -1, right? I'm not that old. I'm pretty sure that's still in the game, right? I can't really remember now, but anyway, yeah, but it's going to be good. And then we've got the rocket cannon here. So the old one is assault 2d3, and then we've now got the heavy 3d3. So you're getting, I guess, more average, more shots. But you are now, and you're getting blast, but you are getting that heavy type now. So that can be good and bad, but overall, I think it's still a win. I don't think you're really losing much, considering you're not really relying on Orks to really hit stuff. It's all about that, as they talk about in this. Their mass firepower is what you want, and really, when we come down here to one of their examples, the real winners here are the big guns that they have. It looks like they're getting a big upgrade. So that's really where you're going to be finding a lot of your, this kind of stuff is going to be starting to become in really, really handy as we move down. So then we've got the custom Mega Blaster. So again, we're getting, this one stays at assault, but now we're getting D3 instead of 1. So you're likely to get a couple of shots with that, with the same stats here, which is really nice. But then it's got blast. If any unmodified hit rolls of 1 are made, so same thing, but now it's got blast. So we're getting, a fair amount of upgrades. But now the really interesting thing. So we come down here to this bubble chucker. Bubble chucker is pretty cool. So we've got a 48-inch weapon on the old stat line with the heavy D6, right? And everything's random. So that's really, really terrible. Anything that's D6 random with no minimum really sucks, basically. Yeah, it's very hard to get, consistent damage with something like this. This is like totally, it could be anything. It could be the worst weapon or the best weapon. You just can't know. So now you actually get these. You roll a d3 and you get one of these results, okay? And that's going to give you your stat line, which I really like. It's still random, but you're getting a minimum stat line here. So if we look at the result 1, which is the big bubble, we're getting the same range, but now we're getting minimum 3d3, right? That's 3d3, yeah. So minimum you're going to get on the lowest roll is 3 shots. So that's really, really nice. And we have a minimum strength now of 6. So you're not going to get like strength 1 or whatever, and you're getting a minimum of AP minus 2. So that's really good. Even on its worst characteristic, you're still getting some average kind of rolls there, which is not bad, okay? And then if we get into some of these other ones here, we're now getting the wobbly bubble, which is it's pretty funny, but that's now you're getting more random. So we've got the D6 again, so you don't get your minimum there, but you are getting strength 8 and an extra minus AP on it, and you're getting damage 3. So even at 1 shot, that's still a nice shot, right? That's like a decent heavy weapon shot. It's got decent damage. You'd still be happy with that. You'd like more than 1. The average, you should get 2 or 3 shots out of it, so it's not bad, but not as good, let's say. Really, the big bubble one is actually kind of nicer because at least it's got like some minimum number of shots really that you're getting. You know more what you're getting out of this, but because everything has multiple wounds now, the damage 3 is probably better. And then finally, we've got the dense bubble. And that one's pretty cool. We've now got 1 shot, but we're now getting strength 10 here, and then we're getting AP minus 4, and again you're getting a minimum level of damage. So you're getting 3 minimum plus D3 on top. So that's really, really good. It means it's going to be minimum damage 4, AP minus 4. So, this is a really nice shot. Now, obviously, will you hit with that? Will you not? Okay. Because I'm pretty sure you still have to roll to hit with this weapon, right? So, unless you don't have to, after you can't roll it yet, and then, you're still going to have to roll to hit, I would imagine, unless they've changed that too. But still, you've got a nice, this bodes well for what's coming for the rest of the weapons. If this is the kind of thing that's going on with what they're doing, then, we're looking pretty crazy for the Orks. They're looking pretty strong. So that means all those builds that were running before, all those sort of gunline builds that they were doing with these kind of like big guns and so on, are still going to be viable. And now a lot of the vehicle builds, I think, will be viable when you combine that with the Waaghs and what it looks like is going on for all of their stuff, including their base toughness. They're going to be pretty crazy on the tabletop. I can't imagine not. If the bikes get the extra toughness and all of that stuff, and they're pointed, at a decent level, I mean, it's going to be madness. They're definitely going to give the Dark Elder and the Admech a run for their money, because that's going to be pretty crazy on the table. So yeah, they're just my thoughts on that. I won't waffle on too long. I'm sure there's better Ork players that can give this a better review than I can, but it's looking really, really cool. I haven't, the last time I was excited about Orks and what's coming for them was like, almost 20 years ago. So to see some real, extra oomph into the Ork range is a really, really lovely thing to see. And I don't mind if they end up being overpowered, because they've never really been overpowered ever in their history. It'd be like having Guard be on top, or whatever, or having, I don't know, yeah, like what's like Gene Stealer Colts on top or something for a million years. But, like there are armies out there that just never really get on top, or Tyranids or something, that always struggle. And to see this kind of thing happening is pretty amazing. I don't know what it's going to mean like for the whole game as a whole. It does kind of feel like 9th edition's getting a bit crazy. But even then, it's a bit of fun, right? And I'm sure it can be, rode back into line maybe if they really want to do that. But for all those Ork players, you're going to have some great fun games coming out of COVID. You're going to be able to go into those tournaments and everything and really compete, which is something that you've never really been able to really say you could do, unless you have very, very specific builds. That's only a couple of them, and that you'd have to be a really, really good player to do well. Now it looks like you're gonna be able to play like an Ork and actually be competitive doing that. So the narrative players will be happy. You'll be able to just fall in line with what their lore is and what their narrative is, and come away with some pretty strong builds. So really, really cool. So yeah, that's all I want to say about that. I hope you've enjoyed this. Please hit that like button, subscribe button if you have, and I guess I'll catch you on the next one.